Hi everyone, how you doing? So today I am talking about something that is not quite my usual subject, which is data centers, and I've got with me Julian Searle, who's the Chief Development Officer of the Ocean Cleanup. And I know most people in this room probably think of oceans, when they think of oceans, other than you've probably all got your private boats and yachts and things, but you know, it's all about subsea cables and using them to move data from one continent to another. But I think we're going to hear a little bit about something else when it comes to one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the oceans today, which is cleaning them up. Julian, tell us a little bit about the scale of the challenge that you see from ocean cleanup.
Sure. Thank you guys for your time. Is this working?
Just on the back.
Is that better? Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, this is quite different in terms of a topic, and it's quite different in terms of a problem. And I'll try and share some of that with you for the next 20 minutes. Essentially, there's a lot of plastic floating around in the oceans. That's we call legacy plastic. 100,000 tons in the Great Pacific. That's sitting there. That's been there 60 or more years. And unless we remove it, it's just going to continue to sit there and make a mess of things. In addition to that, there's there's 20% of global plastic that's produced each year that is mismanaged. A couple of percent of that goes back into the hydrosphere, and 0.5% of that goes back into the ocean system. So there's stuff sitting there today that needs to be removed, and then there's a continuous inflow of additional plastic into the oceans. And that's impacting, obviously, the ecosystem, the carbon pumps. It threatens our food systems and creates $11 to $20 billion of annual economic damage to coastlines, to real estate values, to tourism, insurance, banks, boats, fishing, etc. So it's a big problem. It's also one of those problems that's hard to pinpoint in terms of who to help or who to work with to help solve it, who wants to write the checks to fund such a cleanup. So it's definitely...
And Julian, how did you get involved in it, and how did the organization start?
Yeah, it's an organization that's been around about 10 years. It was founded by Boyan Slat in Rotterdam. He was 16 and he went scuba diving and found more plastic than fish, and went off on a mission to personally tackle that. I heard about these guys about 4 years ago. I saw them on CNN sailing out of the Golden Gate Bridge to go do this, and I thought, well, that's crazy. I've spent 25 years in Silicon Valley in capital, helping companies on business development, funding, product development type of things. And this particular challenge is insane in terms of the complexity of the business model itself. Who to work with, how to fund it, how to structure it, how to provide value, who do you provide value to? That basic complexity is what excited me personally to join, because I think, if they can't fund this, then that's a sad sort of missed opportunity.
And what are we talking about in funding? What's the scale of the kind of financial requirement on this?
Yeah, roughly $5 billion over the next 10 years. And just say 3.5 to 4 billion is for the Great Pacific alone. So 100 to 400 million a year is the operational budget to set sail to collect this plastic. The other billion and a half is for the rivers, which is basically stopping the inflow of 1,000 water systems globally over the next 10 years.
And I guess we all do a little bit. We think we're doing our part of in recycling, little bits here and there, and our homes, and we put the things in the different rubbish bins and things like that. But how does the plastic that you get out of the ocean compare in terms of a recycling value? How does that compare to sort of what we put in our rubbish bins at home?
That's where things get really complex. The cost of our plastic, if you compare it to general recycled plastic, is 30x. because we've got to sail ships in between California and Hawaii for 5 weeks at a time to collect this. So that's that $35 million a system. That's a lot of money to go out there, get it. It's been there 60 years. It's corroded. It's sun bleached. It's salty. The sorting facilities that have to handle this plastic are much different, a lot more manual sorting. So versus, household waste where it's in a bucket and somebody picks it up every Tuesday and it can be sort of efficiently sorted. We end up with the same thing. We end up with recycled plastic that can be used, but the cost of getting it is, like I said, 30x.
And how do you respond to sort of critics that would say, why should we be putting $5 billion to work on this issue? We should be putting $5 billion in to the sort of avoidance of the situation in the first place.
I say we have to do both. We support both. To solve the upstream issues, you're talking about repackaging, using different packaging materials. There's billions being spent on that already. New polymers, new ways of consumer good sort of uses, better waste management systems, better government systems. That's trillions of dollars over at least a decade and a half before you're going to start to see impacts in a lot of these countries and a lot of these locations. But in the meantime, you're bleeding. You need a Band-Aid. So we support both. We want to see the upstream improvements, and we like what's happening there, but it's big. It's going to take a long time. In the meantime, you've got a big pile of plastic outside your house. We got to clean it up. It's definitely having an impact on things to leave it there.
And is the private sector helping here? Does industry benefit or help, and other than just sort of donations? Is there any other way that they're involved?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of appetite to help, which I find encouraging, and I'm in the process of figuring out how to sort of scale that help. There's help on the technology side of things. There's a lot of help and support on the science and both hardware and software. And then in the recycling space, there are partners that are working with us on how to better, more efficiently recycle or create circular economies around the waste. And then there's product companies in automotive or consumer tech that want to find a way to use this plastic, albeit at a premium, in order to help partner with us and expand the message.
So give us a little bit more color on that then, because you mentioned that using the plastic is creating it or recycling it is really expensive. So why, when everyone, like the car manufacturer, for example, why would they use that plastic versus any other plastic, given how expensive it would be?
Yeah, so on a one-to-one, it doesn't make sense to use our plastic for a product that's primarily plastic. The economics don't add up. But if you look at a product where the cost of goods associated with plastic is 1% or 2% of the total product cost, and so now you're into automotive, you're into consumer electronics, or heavy industrial goods, they could actually replace the plastic that's being used, whether it's virgin or recycled, with our plastic, with a premium, and only alter the total product price by 1% or 2%. And then they could probably get 5 to 40% market share gains or pricing bonuses or benefits from that eco product. So in the right set of products, with the right sort of volumes, there is a way for companies to partner with us, provide significant revenue to us to fund the operation, and then make that back in market share or sales down the road. We have a partnership with Kia. They are working on that, how to use our plastic in either accessories or automotive primary products. There's some announcements hopefully this year around it, but they've been helping on, providing us critical funding, and then helping to figure out how to engineer solutions for this plastic, whether it's coming from a river or ocean. A couple of different technical challenges, but people are partnering with us on those things.
Do you have any IT companies on your list?
Yeah, so we're working with Microsoft, we work with Nokia, we work with Hyundai Glovis out of Korea. IT is a big part of what we do in terms of modeling what's happening in the oceans and what's happening in rivers, and can also help drastically speed up and reduce the cost of what we're doing. So far, a few companies that have, and a few more on the horizon that have asked to work with us on this.
And I guess you probably listened to a few of the other topics that have been spoken about. AI is a very big thing for the industry at the moment. Are you using AI at all in your development, and are you seeing any benefits from AI?
Yeah, so we are. We've developed a ADIS technology, which is a mixture of advanced imaging and AI modeling. So in the oceans, we're looking at what's happened with the currents, where is the plastic, the gyres and the hot spots, and I'll touch on that in a second. And then in rivers, we have cameras on bridges all around the world, around waterways, that are able to, with the help of AI, detect what is flowing down the river, how much is flowing, is it plastic, is it organic? And we're able to then model that and come up with a lot of global data that says, here are the high impact spaces, here are the worst rivers or water systems in the world with the most outflow, and therefore, here's where we want to focus our next set of projects or initiatives to solve or create large impact projects. That's
very cool. I'm going to change tack a second. You mentioned Boyan Slat started this at the age of 16. What's it like working with such a young entrepreneur? What are the challenges, and how have you felt working with someone like that?
This is recorded, right?
You're amongst friends, don't worry.
I think it's like living on the intersection of awesome and insane at the same time. It really is. Like, I've worked with a lot of startups directly, and I've helped a lot of startups over the last 25 years. And Boyan has that magic ingredient of moonshot, visionary, doesn't sleep until something gets done, right? And it's fun and it's exciting to work, for me, to work alongside those kind of guys. But then it's like, well, it's a startup that's hard to find funding for, that doesn't have a viable business plan, essentially, in terms of providing value in exchange for investments. And is sort of not that mature in terms of the organization. So, it's inspiring, it's exciting, it, to me, provides exhilaration, but it's very, very complicated, very challenging.
I'm sure he's going to love that when we send it to him in a little recording. So.
All right. I think he'll agree with the insane part.
So when you were mentioning about AI, if you think about that 5 billion over 10 years, what do you think AI could do to, what sort of hole could it knock into that cost?
Yeah, when I say, so AI and imaging combined could actually cut that in half. So briefly, we know where the gyre is. We know where the plastic is located. It's an area twice the size of Texas in the middle of the Pacific between California and Hawaii. This is a big area of water. And it's not like all the plastic is sitting there on one island. This is more like plastic soup, twice the size of Texas. So what we have to do is basically create advanced fish finders. So our boats are out there, and it's $35 million a year for a pair of ships with the boom that collects this stuff. And they only know so much about where the actual hot spots are, where are the highest density areas of plastic. So we know it's in this big spot, but within that big spot, where are the hot spots? So we use imaging, whether that's satellite or aerial or drone or on ship, to gather data, and then that data goes through AI and advanced modeling and helps the ships steer to where those hot spots are. In the perfect world, if we knew exactly where these hot spots were, each of our trips to the patch would have maximum yield, which means we could have a 5x reduction in number of trips and cost and time. So you go from a $5 billion or $4 billion problem to a $1.8 billion problem. You go from taking 10 years, you go to 4 years. That's the potential. And our teams are working on that. So as we scale up, we've got this 10-year, $5 billion plan, and we're constantly challenging ourselves and our scientists and our hardware and software guys how to use AI and imaging and advanced modeling to reduce that so we can get this done faster and cheaper.
Well, I guess that's I hope you achieve at least half of that, because that's a significant impact. You've got a bunch of very wealthy organizations represented in the room here. I'm sure there's going to be a bucket outside. Just drop some money in that. What's your call to action here, right? I mean, what would you ask of this group of people that have great potential to change things?
Thanks. Yeah, I've got Leonard over there. He's going to carry the bucket. I think a few things. So those in the room that are involved in technology, if you'd like to get involved, learn more, figure out how to work with us to help us improve what we're doing, I think that would be very welcome by the science guys. Anybody who knows brand owners, either future or current, that are interested in the next eco-friendly devices, I'd like to have conversations around that. And then on the investment bank finance side of things, I'm looking for help in building a model that talks to the CSR benefits, the customer benefits, the employee benefits, as it relates to a financial equation of a corporate income stream. So what are the specific returns? We know there are some, that a company can get from partnering with us in terms of employee performance or share performance. We're working with some banks today on investment bonds, where bonds can be set up associated with certain KPIs of ours that can unlock blue funding. And that to me is in its infancy, and that's where I think the key is if we can find a way to quantitatively put out there what are the actual impacts that a corporation could experience as a result of this participation. Then I think the sales job that I have gets a little bit easier.
I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions if you have anything for Julian. Anyone have a question?
It's sort of not like a regular company, it's not planning to grow. It's got a job to do. Once that job's done, what then happens with, what's the future after that?
Yeah, when we're successful, we'll put ourselves out of business. It's a great question. And I think the plan is rid the oceans of plastic by 2040. I think we can do a little better than that, as we're talking about here. But yeah, at some point, right, the waters are clean, we're done. We'll go figure out some other problem to go solve. Maybe the trash will be in space, and we'll go figure out how to grab that.
Clean up Mars or something like that. One more question over here.
Yeah, how involved do you want to be in the ventures that are looking at packaging? So I saw a French company, they're looking at packaging that actually comes partly from milk proteins, for example. It's sort of soluble, it will never clog up the oceans. Is that just edge case for you, or actually you want to be actively involved with them?
I think affiliation is important, like mutual understanding. So there's some level of support there that would be good. We have to focus on the legacy pollution. So there's not so much we can do with the resources we have to actually help in the upstream stuff without diluting our own efforts. So we got to stay focused, but I think a mutual level of respect, and even if there are any potential collaborations between what are we seeing with AI, what type of packaging are we seeing in our pollution, and what are the percentages of ABC plastics or ABC products that we're seeing in various parts of the world. And maybe that data would be helpful for the guys you're working with so they can extrapolate direct impact to their new packaging. Yeah, we'd be happy to provide and share anything that would help with upstream solutions.
I think that's probably all that we have time for. I really thank Tech Capital for allowing me to do this, because I've learned so much about the topic that I had no idea, not much idea about before. And it's really refreshing to speak about something that's not data centers in a data center conference. Julian, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.